What I want to share today just a little bit is about navigating change because you're in the middle of this change thing. Next Sunday is, Joshua's farewell. And let me just say something about that. As I remember so well what it felt like on the other side of it. So now, since he's not here in the room, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what he's going through. Because I know what he's going through. I talked to him about it, and I guessed, and I was absolutely right about what he was feeling about it, because I went through the same thing and felt the same thing. Okay, don't think of this as like a divorce, okay? Think of it like you're sending kids to college or something like that. Like when you're sending, like some of you guys are college students, you don't know what it feels like to be the one sending you to college. But like I remember when I sent my son to college, I cried. Oh, it was so hard to see him go to college. Oh, come on. But then he came back. Came back at Christmas time with a big beard and a big bag over his shoulder. I thought he was Santa Claus for a minute. He let his hair grow out, and the bag was laundry. but he came back. And it was a blessing. And as we sent our kids, then new things happened and beautiful things. Then our family extended and all that. And if you can think of it like that, and as you're blessing Josh, as you bless him to go, think of it like Paul and Silas, the church prayed over them and they sent them. And then it becomes like a multiplying and a blessing rather than him going with your resentment. You see, if you like say, I really wish you weren't going. Man, this really stinks that you're going. If you say that kind of stuff to him, even if you might feel that way, man, that just makes it harder for him. See, he doesn't want to leave you. He really doesn't. God's calling him into this new chapter, and he must obey that call, right? And what that means is this. In fact, some folks at the last service said, well, it was great for Josh, but boy, it's really bad for us. Well, no, not really. Because, see, if God's in it, then whatever he calls is not just good for Josh, but it's also good for you, even though you may not feel good about it at the moment. So let me give you 3 thoughts about change, and then I'm going to unpack it just a little bit. The first thought about change is that change is life, and life is change. And when you're done changing, you're through. So change is just a natural part of life. When you're going through change, it's just part of what it is. So like some of you guys who are college students, you left home and you came here. And that was a change, right? Changed it up, made things different. And you had to get used to a new normal. But that's normal. The new part is normal. Like even your body is changing. At this very moment, did you know that you're shedding skin cells, dead skin cells? Over this hour that we're together in church, you're going to go between, say, 30 to 40,000 skin cells are going to be falling off you right onto the seat where you're the poor custodian. Just think, there's like 1 million skin cells by the end of this church service. He's going to vacuum up you. He's going to be vacuuming you up. You're changing. You're changing. New skin cells are coming. Your body's changing. And once you stop like shedding skin cells, that's the day you croak. And then they'll bury you. And so what you want to do is keep on shedding skin cells as long as you can. Got to keep changing. And even if you don't want to change, if you want to keep everything exactly the same as it always was, it'll still change. Even if you tried really hard to keep it the same. Like there was this little village I used to drive through every year for like about 25 years. I drove through this little village. And the people in that village didn't want to change anything. It was amazing to me. I drove through like every other village changed. Every town, there's things different. But in this one particular village, they didn't change anything. They wanted to keep it all exact. Like so the signs were the same, the stores were the same, everything's exactly the same. But guess what? It changed. It changed. I mean, the people that owned the stores died. And the paint on the store started to peel. The sign that was on the store started to fall off. And then the stores closed down. And that little village is a ghost town now. It changed, even though it didn't want to change. You see, when you're done changing, you're through. Change is a part of life, and life is change. Now, the second thing I want to say about it is change is hard. It's really hard, particularly when it's not your idea. Like, I love change when it's my idea. I love all kinds of ideas and changes and stuff. Oh, it's wonderful when it's my idea. But when it's somebody else's idea or when somebody else announces a change, I don't like that at all. Like, I don't know if anybody here's like, you were like either your roommate or your husband or your wife or somebody changes the furniture in the living room or something. How do you handle that? What's that? Like, and that even happens in college, by the way. It was really funny. We've had 2 days of classes so far. So I had it on Tuesday and Thursday. And on the Thursday class, this guy comes in and says to somebody, "Hey, you're sitting in my seat." Your seat? How'd that happen? Well, I sat on it on Tuesday, so now it's my seat. Because once I sit in a seat, I want to stay in that seat. That's my seat. Now, I don't want to change. I have a hunch that even here this morning, like if you come here to church all the time, that you sit primarily in the same place that you always sit. Is that true for you? How many of you are sitting near where you sit like all the time? Yeah, okay, a bunch of you. Yeah, see? You know why? Because we want familiar. We want to keep things just the same way that it was. We want to keep it in a controlled kind of environment. That way we don't have to make extra decisions about things. We want it to be together. And then somebody announces something like, "Pastor Josh, I'm going off to Virginia," and then, "Oh, nuts. What are you doing with that?" No, that doesn't make any sense at all. I don't like this at all. Maybe we should take a vote on whether Pastor Josh could go to Virginia. We'd probably lose that vote, right? He would lose the vote. But change is hard for us. We don't want to see it happen, particularly when it includes loss and it includes somebody that we care about that's going away or things happen outside of our control. We don't like that. But the third thing I want to say about change is not the problem. All right? Like Pastor Josh leaving, that's a change, but it's not a problem. Because a problem is something that you can do something about. Otherwise, if you can't do anything about it, that's called a fact of life. That's not a problem, it's a fact of life. So it's not really a problem that Pastor Josh is going to Virginia. That's just a fact of life. Well, I suppose you could do something about it. You could get like a van and get some people in masks and stuff and go to his house in the middle of the night and kidnap him and take him to the furnace room in the basement next door and let him out on Sunday mornings to preach. But I seriously doubt that you want to do that. So what that means is it's just a fact of life. And so what do you do with the fact of life? You got to just deal with it. You deal with what it is. The problem is transition. Transition is our emotional response to change. How we deal with the change from the inside. It's what's going on inside of us as the change happens. Now that we can control. You can't control how you feel, but you can, that's, by the way, how you feel, that's a fact of life. But you can control your response to that, how you process how you feel. So there are 3 major emotions that erupt, that come up to the surface, ones that we don't want to have, but they're there during times of change, this transition stuff that happens inside of us. One of them is anxiety or fear. Oh no, what's going to happen? Oh my goodness, Pastor Josh, what's going to happen to our church? It's going to be, and when we start like really worrying and becoming very anxious about that. In fact, the word anxiety comes from the same Latin word root as choke, to choke. Have you ever felt that way with anxiety, where you just feel choked and immobilized and you're suffocating with that? Fear. Another negative emotion that we have during this time of change, it's discouragement or sadness. You become heavy-hearted about it. And that's normal. It's normal to feel sad. Like next Sunday, by the way, let me tell you something. I remember so well my last Sunday up in Wisconsin. Oh man, it was one of the most beautiful days of my life, and it was one of the hardest days of my life at the same time. Because I love my people so much, and they shared beautiful stories with me. But you guys, don't make it harder for him. All right? Could you do that for him? Because I remember there were a few people who said, how could you leave us? How could you leave us? It's like, oh boy, wow, what do I do with that? And you might feel that, but when you're talking to him, just, bless him. Just bless him as he goes. I think if you're able to release him and bless him, even though it's hard to do that, I think it'll be a great encouragement for him. It'll bring strength to him, and it'll be helpful for you too. But that's kind of normal that you're going to feel that, and it's okay. And so you just live into it, but you want to process that. And a third emotion that kind of comes along with that can be anger. You get mad at him. I can't believe he's leaving us. He's leaving us for somebody else. What's so good about that church? Our church is better than this guy. Well, hey, it's what it is. God called him, and you got to just live into that. Now, we found this to be the case. There was this one person, she was especially close to us. Kathy and I really cared deeply about her, and she got mad at us. And just was angry. She wouldn't want to talk to us. And then later on, she told us, I found it easier to be mad at you than to deal with the pain of losing you. So I thought if I'd be mad, it wouldn't hurt so much. I remember once I was at Walmart just a few days before I moved. And there was a woman, what has been part of my church? And she came, blue-haired lady. She waddled right up to me, and she goes, you're ruining your church. You're ruining your church. She said that to me. And I was like, okay, and have a nice day. And like anger just erupting out of her. Now, if you have these angry, like if you feel that, it's okay. You face your feeling. You don't hide your feeling. You don't shove it away, but you want to process it. You want to work right through that thing. And so this is what we want to do, because, see, your feeling's going to come out one way or the other. You're either going to work it out or you'll act it out. You know how people acted out this kind of thing, by the way? One way people acted it out up where I was, some of them left the church. They thought this would be a good time to leave the church. Right now, just Pastor Mark's leaving, I'm going to leave too. And there were several that left during that time. But that's a crummy way to do it. I thought I was right about this, so I called Pastor Josh to ask, because I love that guy, and I knew it, and he told me absolutely this is the way it is. And so I'm going to tell you this. I'm speaking for him. See, if you, because you love Pastor Josh, if you say, I'm going to leave the church, after this, because he's not there anymore, he's not a priest, not being good, and blah, 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 I'm going to leave. If that's the way you think, and you leave the church because of that, that's not a compliment to Pastor Josh. That's actually the opposite of a compliment to him. Because what you're saying is that I don't really care about your mission. I don't really care about what you've been teaching me. And so, it did not bless my heart to think that I lost people after I left the church. It broke my heart. And so don't cave into that discouragement. That's not a good thing. But what you want to do is give it all you got and work this thing out and process your transition so that God has something good in store. See, God has another person. I don't know who the person is yet, but God has somebody in mind, and I can guarantee you this. God's not going to send you a dud. He's not. He's not going to send you some lousy dud. That's not going to happen. He's going to send you a really great pastor. And now, that pastor will never replace Pastor Josh. He won't do it, because there's only one Pastor Josh, and he'll be in Virginia. And we can't clone. There's not enough human cloning to clone Pastor Josh. So what that means is God's going to send another person, not to take his place, but to carry on to the new thing. And that's what's happening at the church up in Wisconsin. They got a wonderful new pastor. And so that guy is my dear friend, and I love him, and I can come back, and I get to come up front and talk to him and stuff like that. And I love the people, and he loves the people, and it blesses me because he loves them the way I love them. And that's just wonderful. And that's what's going to happen for you. But just hold on. Just hang on in the in-between. So how do you work through some of this stuff, this anxiety, fear kind of stuff, this discouragement or sadness, or maybe even a little bit of anger about it? Well, you can do what Moses talked about, and it's in Deuteronomy chapter 31. Deuteronomy 31. Yeah, let's put it up here. Now, Moses was 120 years old. Now, that's old. That's older than dirt, right? He's 120. And he had been leading these people for 40 years, not 5 years, not 26 years like I did, but 40 years. And he was such an outstanding leader. But then it was time for him to go. It was time for him to die. He was going to pass on and go on to glory. And God gave him this message. And he spoke it to the people. And I want you to say it along with me. Let's say it together. Ready? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. There you go. 3 times in Deuteronomy 31, it says, be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. And then it says it 4 more times in the book of Joshua, the very next one, as the new leader comes. Be strong and courageous, strong and courageous, strong and courageous. Why do you think that is repeated so many times? Because when we're in a change period, we need to be strong and courageous. You need to have strength and face this thing with courage. That's what Moses said to the people. That's what God says to you. Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged. God will be with you everywhere you go. He'll never leave you. He's never, ever, ever going to forsake you. He won't. Now, this is when the yabbats kick in. Yabbats. You ever have a case of the yabbats? Yeah, but Moses was the visionary. He's the one that had the vision. He's the one that was telling us what we were going to be going, and we were following him. Yeah, but he was our leader. He was our leader. And so he's the one that gave the energy to this thing. And he was the one that held us all together. Yeah, but he was the one that represented God to us and us to God. Yeah, but now what are we going to do? If you get a bad case of the yabbats, there's only one cure for that thing, and that's faith. Be strong and courageous. Don't be terrified. The Lord will go with you wherever you go. So, yeah, but it's true. Moses was a great leader. He was an awesome leader. In Time magazine just recently did an article on the greatest leaders of history. And Moses makes the front page of Time magazine. I mean, it wasn't a photo because Moses didn't have photos back then. Somebody painted a picture of Moses and the 10 Commandments and all that. And they said, Moses was the greatest leader in history. That's kind of funny because he just led these people wandering in a wilderness for 40 years, and he got to be the greatest leader in history. He was a great leader, but he wasn't their primary leader. God was their leader. Moses was the leader's helper. And Josh was a great leader, but he's not your main leader. No, there's another. Jesus is the leader. He's the leader. And Josh was just his helper. And so this is the way we need to look at it. And the vision didn't belong to Moses. I mean, Moses gave the vision. He talked about the vision, but it wasn't Moses' vision. It was God's vision. And so when Moses died, the vision continued. The vision kept going. It didn't die with Moses because it was God's vision. And that's the way it is here. You have a great vision. I met with your board and talked to your staff, and I heard about the vision, and I was so excited when I saw, oh man, you guys have a great, great church here. You know that, don't you? I mean, it's an awesome church. And it'll be just as great and just as awesome whether Josh is here or not, because Jesus is still here. Jesus isn't moving with Josh. You say, well, I'm sorry, I'm taking Jesus with you. Come on, well, too bad. That's too bad. You guys, no. Jesus lives right here in South Carolina, and he's not moving to Virginia. He's right here. Now, that's good news, isn't it? This isn't Josh's church. Josh is an amazing pastor. I love that guy. I think the world of him. But it's not Josh's church. The last time I read in the book, it said, Jesus said, I will build my church. Upon this rock, I'll build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. It's Jesus' church. I remember one time, it was a Monday morning, and I did what pastors do on Mondays. Monday was my day off. You know what I did on my day off? I stewed about the church. So I'm fretting and stewing about the church. And Kathy and I were driving somewhere. I'm just going down the road. And I was mad at my building committee about something. We were in the middle of a big building program and building a building big enough to hold all of our people and stuff. And they made some earth-shattering, eternal decision. I think it had something to do with pockets on the back of a pew or something like that. I mean, something really major. And I got mad at them about it. And I'm like fuming and fussing as I'm driving. I can't believe that stupid building committee can't see that they need to do this. And Kathy's just quiet. She wasn't agreeing with me, I noticed. And finally she says, honey, don't forget, it's not your church. What do you mean? It's not my church. Of course it's my church. I mean, my name's on the sign out front. And we bought these pens, and my name was on the pen too. Click, 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 click. I have a pen right there, my name right there. What do you mean it's not my church? She goes, no, last time I checked, it was God's church. And even after that, she said, it's still not your church. Because someday, like, you're going to move. Or you might die and they'll bury you out of Greenwood Cemetery. But either way, I mean, you want the church to outlast you, don't you? Well, yeah. Well, then don't worry about it. It's the people's church next. It's God's church, and then it's the people's church. And this is your church farther on down the line. Oh, I needed that. My wife's always right. She's always right. It's not your church. It's not Pastor Josh's church. Not your church either, by the way. Turn to your neighbor and just say, it's not your church. It's not. No, it's not. Look what they're doing to my church. No, it's not your church. It's Jesus' church. Just let it go. Let it go. So what do you do? What do you do here? You just realize, how do you be strong and courageous? You realize that he's with us. The Lord goes with you. There's one of the other strong and courageous says he goes before you. He's in front of you, and he's behind you, and he's beside you. He's with you all the way. And when you see that Jesus is right with you, then you have nothing to worry about. He's got your back. He's got you covered. It's all going to be okay. That's the good news, isn't it? That's how you process this stuff. You process it with Jesus right there in the vehicle with you. He's with you, and he's not going to fail you. He's not going to forsake you. He's got you covered. And that's great news. One day I had a phone call from a young lady. Her name was Timber Tina. Timber Tina is a lumberjill. You know, that's like a female lumberjack. She runs lumberjack shows and stuff. She was a national lumberjill champion. She has like a pickup truck that has a bumper sticker that says, beware of chicks with axes. You know, so like she's the person you don't want to mess with, Timber Tina. Well, she comes into my office one day and she goes, Pastor Mark, I got to tell you something. This is top secret. Nobody can know because it's so important secret, but I got to let you know so you can pray for me. She goes, I'm going to be on the Survivor television program. I'm leaving tomorrow, and I'm going to be flying down to Latin America somewhere, and I'm going to be on Survivor. She goes, could you pray for me? And so I did, and I gave her my camo New Testament so she could take that with her as she went on Survivor. It was really cool. Just she knew, her son Charlie knew, and her mother, and that was it. Nobody else knew. I think a sister maybe. That was it. Nobody else knew because it had to be so secret. Well, about a day or two later, I received a terrible phone call. It was one of those calls you don't want to ever get as a pastor, but I got that Charlie, her 16-year-old son, had just been killed in a car accident. Tina didn't know yet. She was far, far away in another country, and she didn't know. And it was my job to call Tina and to tell her that her son had died. Oh man, that was hard. That was one of the hardest things I ever did to tell her. And of course, at that moment, Tina became a survivor of another kind. I mean, the TV program didn't mean anything anymore. She left immediately. She came back. We did the funeral and all the stuff that came with that. And oh man, that was just excruciatingly difficult. A few months later, Tina called me and said, can I come talk to you? And so she came back again to my office. And she said, you're not going to believe this, but the Survivor people called me back and they asked if I could go on the next show. And she goes, I think I should do it for Charlie. Do you think that'd be all right? And I said, I think that'd be great. I think that would be a wonderful thing for you to do in memory of Charlie, to go and win $1 million, Tina, win $1 million. Because I could think, man, on the tithe on $1 million, just think what we could do at the church. So she goes to the Survivor TV program, and then, like, again, the way this works is when you're on the program, you have to, you can let it out just a little bit at a time. Like after a few months, she let people know that she was going to be on it. But no, she's not allowed to say who wins and who doesn't win and all that. So it's the night that the program's going to air, the very first program of the season. And she calls me. And she goes, Pastor Mark, it's really, really urgent. I've got to talk to you today. I've got to talk to you like this morning. Is there any way we can talk? Yeah, absolutely. Come on in. So she comes out and thought, she's won $1 million. She's won $1 million. And so she sits down and she goes, I got voted off the island first, she said. I got voted off the island first. Everybody in town thinks I'm going to win $1 million and I get voted off the island first. I'm so humiliated. She goes, and everybody in the nation, like in the whole world, people from other countries watch this, and they're going to watch me get voted off the island first. And to make matters worse, she goes, tomorrow morning, I have to go on live on Good Morning America, and it just makes me nervous. She goes, I'm thinking like I'm going to throw up. Like, what if I do that? Like right in front of everybody on live TV, she's like worked up. Now, by the way, if you ever go on Survivor, like if you ever go there, if you don't win the $1 million, if you don't think you're going to win the $1 million, get voted off first. It really is a good deal. Because what happened for her is she got to go to a beach resort in Mexico and just hang out for several weeks while the rest of them were duking it out. They paid for everything. So that's the way to go. Go first. But I didn't get the tithe on $1 million on that one. We didn't. And I said to her, Tina, God gave me this thought for her. Tina, I got an idea for you. And I directed her to this strong and courageous passage. I said, think of yourself like in a bubble of grace, a grace bubble. And Jesus is in front of you, and he's behind you, and he's above you, and he's beneath you, and you're in a bubble, and he's keeping you safe, and he's protecting you. Nothing can harm you. Now you just stay in the bubble, and you just bless everybody. That's what you do, and you'll make it. She goes, are you sure that's going to work? And I said, well, give it a shot and see. And so the next morning, I turned on the TV. There she was. She did a great job. It was wonderful. She told all about Charlie. She talked about it. She gave a witness for Jesus. It was so beautiful to see her faith shine on national TV. The next day she calls me and she goes, Pastor Mark, can I talk to you? And I said, okay. So she comes back into my office again and she goes, it worked. I did it. She goes, I got to the airport and there was this guy, chauffeur guy, who was over with a little sign and everything. So I just blessed him. I stayed in the bubble and I blessed him. She goes, we went to the fancy schmancy hotel and there was the doorman at the hotel. She goes, I blessed the doorman at the hotel. She goes, we went to the studio and there were all these camera people and all that and makeup people and stuff. And I blessed them all. She goes, and then she goes, they said 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're on. And so I was looking at that camera and I thought, God bless America. God bless America. She just stayed in the bubble and she blessed everybody. And you can do that too. Right now, in your life and in your church, just stay in the bubble and be a blessing. Figure out a way to bless everybody. No harm's going to befall you. You're going to be all right. Strong and courageous, strong and courageous. You know that fear not comes up 365 times in the Bible. That's one for every day of the year because we need to be reminded over and over and over and over and over again. God is with us and he's good and he's never, never, never going to forsake us. I'm going to ask you to